Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for Western Resilience Center's 2026 Summer Intern Final Presentations. We have some snacks and seltzers in the back, so feel free to help yourself. I'm Caitlin Farkas, Western Resilience Center's Waste Diversion Projects Manager and Internship Program Manager. Today, I'm so excited to highlight our 4 interns, Avery, Sam, Harrison, and Margaret, and all of their great work they've done this summer. So this summer, they've really been such an exceptional group. From the start, they have jumped right in on their projects with enthusiasm, asked really engaging questions of our staff, and worked to build their knowledge and skills in the climate action space. And so really for me, it's been such a pleasure to work with the 4 of you all summer, every week. And for those that are not as familiar with our internship program, Western Resilience Center offers a professional development experience for students and early career professionals locally to the Yampa Valley. Since 2021, we have had over 50 interns come through the program, really young professionals eager to engage in climate resilience and nonprofit work across the region. Our interns work closely with a staff mentor in one of our 5 priority areas: energy, transportation, waste diversion, resilient water, and community engagement. Interns will design and execute a self-led project that advances our work forward. In addition to their project, interns attend weekly meetings to build professional skills, connect with both our staff and many of our community partners, and gain exposure to all of the great work being done across the region in climate action. Today, we're really grateful for the partners such as the Kettering Family Foundation and the Yampa Valley Community Foundation Community Support Grant that make this program possible. So if you're interested in investing in the next generation of climate leaders and expanding access to impactful professional experiences locally, please feel free to reach out to us to learn more how you can support and also stay engaged with future interns. So with that being said, again, thank you all so much for being here today. I'm really excited to highlight all they've done. They're really incredible projects and presentations for you all today. Very impressive and also very inspiring. So with that, next up, let's have Michelle Stewart, our Executive Director, say a couple words.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and congratulations to each of you. You've been phenomenal interns this term. Caitlin, congratulations too. Caitlin stepped into the role for the first time of being our intern program manager and did a phenomenal job following on the heels of Cody Dolan's great leadership before. You've done a wonderful job, and this is one of our 3 favorite days of the year as an organization, is when we get to be inspired and hear all of your insights and the accomplishments that you've had over these past weeks. As everyone will get to hear, our internship program really is something to celebrate. Not only is it an opportunity to bring rising professionals into our work, we too get to see how they lead and the important ways that they also contribute to these important initiatives around us. We as an organization are focused on accelerating decarbonization, so reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and also accelerating solutions and actions that build resilience in the face of increasing temperatures. This year is quite bracing. We see incredible low water, we see wildfire risk, we see increasing temperatures. The impacts of changing climate are really visceral and known to us. And so our work as an organization is really trying to reduce emissions, those drivers of those changes, as well as really take actions that set our communities and our natural landscapes up for increased success as we move forward and endure these drying conditions. So we really are so excited. All interns, please know that this is the friendliest, most accommodating. Everyone wants to hear what you have to say. We will all be thinking about questions that we can ask following your presentation. So just really, we invite you to just seize this moment, enjoy and celebrate. And we're all so excited to hear what you have to say. So everyone get ready for your questions. We'll have Q&A to follow each of the presentations. And we are just really excited to mark this celebration together with you today. So thank you, Caitlin, for the opportunity. And we're all really warm, welcoming audience members. So we're looking forward to it. So good job.
Hey, hello everyone. My name's Samantha. I was one of the 3 Resilient Land and Water interns here at Western Resilience Center this summer. And my project is titled Yampa River Forest Restoration Project, or I'm going to shorten it to YRFRP from now on, Maintenance and Methodology Development. So my project was split into 2 parts that both relate to YRFRP as a whole. One was weekly maintenance at Western Resilience Center's YRFP plots, and the other was a methodology development for future soil moisture and irrigation research within the plots that hopefully a future Western Resilience Center intern will be able to do. So a little bit of background before I get started. I grew up here in Steamboat Springs. I moved here in middle school, graduated from Steamboat Springs High School in 2022. And I always knew that I wanted to pursue science. Like since I started high school, I graduated with a degree with emphasis in science and then continued on at Scripps College. I got my degree in environmental science from there. I just graduated in May. And basically, I love water recreationally and science-wise. So being able to take on a project that relates to local climate resilience from an aquatic lens, from a Yampa River lens, was a huge blessing. And I was so happy to be here at Western Resilience Center this summer. And I was especially stoked to be mentored by Brenna Egan, the Restoration Projects Manager and Impacts Analyst, and Ryan Messenger, the Resilient Watersheds Program Manager. Before I officially started here at Western Resilience Center, I had actually already met both of these people through previous work here in the Valley and volunteering at Western Resilience Center. So I knew that it was going to be a dream come true to work directly under these guys at last. They did such a wonderful job taking me under their wings, educating me, involving me in so many different projects. So I'm very grateful to both of them. I'd also like to mention some partners here real quick. YRFRP as a whole has a lot of partners, but the main partner that it has is the city of Steamboat Springs. But the one partner that I worked directly with this summer was Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. Brenna hosted 2 different Rocky Mountain Youth Corps crews that were working directly with the YRFRP projects. One was a crew of middle schoolers and one was a crew of high schoolers. And RMYC is just such an amazing program, and getting to be on the ground with the project that I'm working on and seeing how it's helping these kids ranging from ages like 12 to 18 and watching them create community with their peers, care for like local climate action, and developing their own relationships with the things that I care so deeply about was really awesome to see. So shout out RMYC. And then a little bit of general background on my project. Cottonwoods are a keystone species in many North American riparian environments, but they're suffering because of dams and climate change primarily. They're really hydrologically dependent, and for regeneration, they depend on high spring seasonal flows to spread their seeds out across the alluvial fan, and then they need the summers to be wet enough so those seeds can turn into seedlings and send their roots down into the existing water table so they can survive on their own. But climate change is obviously lowering those peak flows, and it's decreasing the amount of water that we have in the summer. So there's a gap in natural regeneration in riparian cottonwoods that we're seeing all over the country. And we're seeing it here in Steamboat. So Western Resilience Center has stepped up to fill that gap in natural regeneration with the YRFRP program. It aims to provide shade, habitat, and resilience in riparian environments locally through the planting of narrowleaf cottonwoods and mountain alders primarily. The program planted 4,162 trees since 2019. And the average survival rate as of the data collection that was done last fall was about 47%. So about 1 in 2 trees is still doing good. But this varies widely from site to site. Some of the sites have a bunch of trees surviving, and some of them barely have any at all. So if you think about the 47%, you might think that's not that good, but the planting and irrigation regime employed by Western Resilience Center is novel. Like riparian cottonwood restoration, there is literature about it. It is being done in other places, but the high elevation, cold environment that we have here necessitates a different regime for those things. So there isn't a lot of existing literature to provide insight into why some sites are doing great and some sites aren't so much here specifically in the valley. And just a little bit of context, these maps here are showing all of the sites that are along the Yampa and Elk River. So those show where all the tree plots are. But although there's not science directly relating to cottonwood survival success here in the Yampa Valley, it is proven throughout cottonwood restoration that the rate of moisture decline is the most important determining factor for cottonwood seedling survival. Rate of moisture decline, for what I'm talking about, is basically how fast the water level is like dropping in the soil. So this validates the project that I created, the methodology that I created, because one of the most important things to figuring out why trees are surviving where they are is figuring out how effective the irrigation that we're using is. So yeah, some project objectives. The overarching goal was to support the immediate and long-term survival of wire FRP seedlings. So yeah, objective 1 was the weekly fieldwork. Brenna Egan was kind enough to give me 3 of her plots that were close to town. So I was working at Fifth Street, Snake Island, and Rotary. And that was primarily just weekly irrigation and maintenance. And then objective 2 was the methodology development that I spoke about. And that was doing a literature review of Western Resilience Center methods and then general scientific literature, and then doing a methods development specifically for the Yampa Valley. And that'll be used to evaluate irrigation methods that are being used at wire FRP plots, and then hopefully to select future sites once we have a better idea of where cottonwoods will be surviving. So my methods for field work, the start of the summer was the summer setup, going out with Brenna and setting up all the lines, fixing all of the leaks that had come up. There's a lot of deer and elk and little mice chewing on the irrigation lines. So there's a lot of patchwork that needs to be done at the beginning of the summer. But then after that was started just running the pumps and walking the irrigation lines every single week, ensuring that all of the planted cottonwoods were getting the irrigation that they need. And then every week there was kind of a different maintenance issue or different maintenance thing that I was focusing on. Like one week I like fixing all the leaks, one week I would weed, one week I would fix the fences, and I would like put concrete board under all of the pumps because they blow hot air into the dry grass and we don't want to burn down the town. And I was working solo, I was working with Brenna, and I was working with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. So there was a lot of different people that I was working with out in the field. And then for methodology methods, first doing a wire FRP, like Western Resilience Center methods review. My project very much built on the work of previous interns. It built on the work of Brenna and Ryan. So I needed to ground myself in what has already been done in order to make sure that my methodology was continuous, and would take all of that information and synthesize it well and hopefully be easy to understand. And then doing an overarching literature review of hydrology, soil, irrigation. I was pulling from a lot of different sources from a lot of different locations for all of these things. Because there wasn't anything specific about high elevation Colorado environment. So I was just trying to ground myself in as many locations and techniques as possible so that when I created the methods for wire FRP plots, I would be able to synthesize all of the information that I had read and think about what would be applicable to the wire FRP sites. It was also designed to account for Western Resilience Center's capacity and equipment. So it the future intern in Western Resilience Center won't have to buy a bunch of new equipment or hire a whole bunch of different people. So it's tailored very much to Western Resilience Center. Yeah, it's also, I guess the little drawing you see there is just, I feel like, a good example of how specific it is to Western Resilience Center and wire FRP. That's a little drawing that I made that showed just like the technical aspect of using the soil moisture probe. Like that's one of the trees. You can see the little irrigation line going to it. And then the measurements for the auger hole, and then where you stick the probe in to get measurements throughout the hole at the plot. And then some results and outcomes. Successful field work. It's kind of a hard thing to quantify, but I was saying that none of my plots exhibited mass mortality. I didn't light any of them on fire. So that was good. But one of the important things was added capacity to the wire FRP project as a whole. It's really, really, really time and work intensive. So it was really awesome to feel useful, feel like I was actually adding some important capacity to the project. And I worked, yeah, as I mentioned, the 2 RMYC crews, and then I did a little calculation. Pretty sure I spent about 24 of my about 55 total internship days in the field, which I thought was just a fun stat. So I got to spend a lot of time outside. And then another result or outcome was the methodology. It is technically untested. I didn't get the chance to go out into the field and actually auger the hole and use the probe, but it is based in Western Resilience Center capacity and equipment. So I'm hoping that the next intern will be able to just hit the ground running. And it can also be used as a jumping off point for any edits that need to be made by Western Resilience Center. It's like a very customizable methodology for whatever Western Resilience Center needs, and could also potentially be used by other organizations that are inspired by the planting or irrigation regime that we've used, looking at what we've done to collect the data, and then they can take it and make it their own, hopefully. And then here's some screenshots. Those are really small. Sorry, everyone. But this is just an example of like how I did the literature review. This is like my soil texture review that pulls from the literature and then pulls from a previous soil texture analysis done by a 2025 Western Resilience Center intern. So showing how I brought all of that together. And then the site selection timing. I guess you guys can't really read it, but I was trying to show how YRFRP specific that all was. And then the jar test methodology was just a way that I turned something that was just already existing on the internet and existing done by the same intern, 2025 intern Sarah, and then made it my own and made it fit into the methodology that I created. And some suggestions for Western Resilience Center relating to my project. More sampling is always better for something like this. The more data that you can have, the more robust your analysis will be. I wrote in that you need to have at least 3 sample sites per plot in order to get an average, but as many as you can viably do is a good thing. Another suggestion is that it already fits really well into the adaptive management plan. There's a lot of data collection that already happens at these sites every single year, and just fitting this in as part of the adaptive management plan will make sure that all this data collection is kind of fits together nicely. And speaking of the way that it fits in together, I was looking at Friends of the Yampa's scorecard program. That's what this screenshot is right here. And I was thinking about the possibility of doing a similar thing for the WIRE FRP program. Like once you've analyzed soil composition, irrigation penetration, height above the water table aspect, vegetation, land use history, soil chemical composition, all of these different things, you could tie that all together and then create like an ABC system or a gold standard, silver, bronze, etc. And I think that could potentially be used to connect with volunteers. The WIRE FRP program is uses a lot of volunteers with the annual tree planting program, and being able to tell volunteers that this site that we've scouted is a gold standard site. Like we think these trees are going to have a really good chance of survival, etc., would be a good way to get volunteers potentially excited about going out to a site, especially if the site is not easy to access or something like that. Like if the work is going to be hard, being able to tell the volunteers that like this project is probably going to be successful, I think would be a really powerful way to motivate people. And then some other contributions, I was able to do a lot of other field work. Went out to a landowner's ranch out west of town and did One Rock dams, did surveying of a degraded creek up in Slater Park, went back to that creek later in the summer and actually was able to put in some of the structures that we had decided would fit into the sort of resilience restoration plan that we had decided on. I was able to go out and put in a pond leveler with the beaver working group, which was really cool. I was able to go out to Yampa with Caitlin and teach little kids about recycling, which was really exciting. Did post-fire regeneration surveying, did tree planting. So yeah, Western Resilience Center did a really awesome job of inviting us interns out and getting exposure into other projects and other types of field work. So I was grateful for that. And then I decided to put a little fieldwork highlight slide. I saw a lot of cool stuff when I was out mucking around in the field for the whole summer. I saw like sandhill cranes, sandhill crane nests. There's like, if you can see that middle one with the tiny brown speck, that was a baby elk bedded down, which was really cool. Walked right into that one. Found some morels. The one on the far right, I was out on Snake Island doing my weekly fieldwork and I walked right into a mama moose and her 2 babies. So obviously didn't get a photo of that, but once I was done fearing for my life, I took a photo of where they were bedded down when I walked into them. So trust, they were there. But it was just really cool to be out in nature so much this summer. And then some personal takeaways, adaptation in the field. I mean, as a field technician person, adapting to weather, adapting to equipment, adapting to the general mood of the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps middle schoolers who don't really want to be there, etc. Like adapting to what's in front of you is really important for keeping your own morale high and keeping the work productive. And then there was really awesome professional development at weekly intern meetings. We got to hear from a bunch of Western Resilience Center staff and then also staff from other community organizations like the Steamboat Resort and Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust. So it was really awesome to hear about how people who are involved in the work that I'm interested in kind of configured their career, like their own unique journey. It was awesome to be in the world of nonprofits. I mean, I've been in the academic world for the past 4 years in college, and seeing how like a nimble nonprofit functions in the conservation space here in town, like getting the insider view into that was really awesome. And then it also gave me just a different lens for Steamboat. I mean, growing up here in town, you obviously know how amazing it is, but you don't necessarily know how all the cogs turn. And we got to tour the Botanic Park, we got to tour the municipal recycling facility. So a lot of what we did as interns just like gave me a different lens for my town and a greater appreciation for it. And then some acknowledgements again. Thank you, Ryan and Brenna. You guys did a wonderful job. Thank you to Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. Thank you to Caitlin. You did a great job making sure that everything was really productive, but again, really fun. Vibes were always excellent in the weekly intern meetings, so good job. Thank you to my fellow interns. It was really fun working with you guys this summer. It was a great crew. And then thank you to Michelle. You lead a wonderful organization, and it's absolutely apparent how much care you've put into it, how reciprocal all of the relationships here at Western Resilience Center are, and that all we were lucky enough to have it trickle down to the interns this summer. So thank you. And any questions? Yeah? Ooh, that's a good question. I definitely had a least favorite site. Rotary, a lot of the trees were dead and it was hard to get to. But my favorite site was probably Fifth Street. I think it has a really high survival rate. I mean, it's literally right off the Fifth Street Bridge. Like if you cross the bridge heading towards the rodeo grounds, it's right there on the left. So it's super visible. That's the site where I had the most people like looking at me, kind of trying to figure out what I was doing with the pump or asking questions. And I just think it's a really cool example of how like Western Resilience Center isn't just doing field work way out in the country. Like we're doing field work right here in town, that's going to improve the recreational and climate resilience abilities of like downtown Steamboat, which is really cool. So I think Fifth Street was my favorite site. Okay. Snake Island, that's a good question. I didn't actually know where it was before I started this as well. But it's just upstream from the Hippie Hot Springs. The river splits into two segments, kind of at the railroad bridge right before, like right after the Emerald soccer fields, kind of if you're going down the core trail. And Snake Island is just this little island that most people don't realize is there, but it's right downtown. You have a follow-up? I did not actually see any snakes while I was there. I saw a lot of other wildlife. That was where I saw the moose, that I saw a lot of deer. There's a lot of bear sign out there, but maybe I just wasn't looking enough for the snakes because I was worried about getting eaten by a bear, but I don't know. Yeah, Ryan.
Like I first say, this street is also favorite.
Okay, it's a good one.
Well, you did an awesome job with the presentation and this whole center is so fun to work with you. And you can walk away knowing that we are really going to use what you produce. And I am excited to share those results with you. So it'll be really cool. So you've been a part of climate action in Steamboat for a long time, including your high school days. But how did working with Western Resilience Center change your view on community-led climate action? And does that make you feel a little bit more optimistic about the city?
Yeah, I would say it definitely does. Like being a part of Western Resilience Center definitely gave me exposure to how much community collaboration that Western Resilience Center does. I mean, how many partners that they have, how many different types of volunteer events they host every single year. I definitely think I'm coming out of it more hopeful for the future of climate. I mean, like being at the high school, like it was definitely reflective of the general vibe of Northwest Colorado, where like some people really don't believe in climate change still. So it was like a little bit disheartening being involved in climate action at the high school and then being at college, it's like very doomsday because you're just absorbing a ton of information about how we're all screwed or whatever. So coming out and being at an organization where there's so much hope and there's so much meaningful action, both at Western Resilience Center and with all the people that Western Resilience Center engages with, like definitely like brightened my worldview. Yeah, Sally? Oh no, don't ask me that. I don't exactly have anything lined up as of right now. I've applied for a few different jobs, definitely started to look more towards my future in the last few weeks as this internship has wrapped up. But I'll absolutely be continuing with the work of climate action, whether it's field work or whether it's transitioning more towards the like land management or policy advisor side of things. I definitely can't afford to be picky about who hires me or where I'm going to go. So I would be happy being anywhere where I feel like I'm making a difference, but I'm not quite sure what that is yet.
Great job. Such a pleasure, and you did such a wealth of work, and thank you for all the contributions. I really appreciate your mention of the importance and your learning about the importance of being adaptive, in the field and responding to conditions. And I just want to say that that's really important to hold and like really acknowledge too. And I wouldn't say not all people recognize that. Having done field work, internationally, I saw many people who would have like an idea and then they'd go to the field and they're going to do it and then they would become undone, can't do it, I can't adapt. And so I just think it's a really important thing to celebrate. I just really underline the importance of saying like that's a really important thing to learn because it's something that allows you to go forward and lead and contribute to things in dynamic conditions, which is what it is because we're in a needed way that it's just really makes a difference. So great job, and I just think that's really an important section of thing that it is tough. Like field work is tough and sometimes like being on sponge that you really kept a wonderful optimistic buoyancy about all the work and really contributed greatly. So
Thank you so much. Okay, are there any questions on Zoom? I'm not sure how to check that. There are not. Okay, perfect. Yeah, for sure.
Working on youth for fifth graders. Are you more optimistic about our youth after working with them?
Oh my gosh.
Were there takeaways in their interactions with this work? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I feel like I have a really good example in mind. We had the first day we were doing like a name sharing circle. It was like share your name and like your favorite hobby or like what you do outside of school or sports or whatever. And 3 of the middle schoolers said that their favorite activity was scrolling. Like they actually had like a verb for being on their phones, like rotting, which I was like, oh no, like we might not be getting very much work done today. But then by the end of the day, and they were only, when they're that young, they're not getting paid. So like you can't work them that hard or for that long. So then it would be child labor. But by the end of the relatively short day, they were working together to carry like big bags of mulch. They were working together because we had to like cross the river, and they were like linking arms to like make it across. One of the girls was like, I'm so excited to come back next year and like see how the trees are doing. So it definitely like watching them transform in this like 4-hour period from like, oh, like I like scrolling to like being genuinely invested. And these are local kids, they're like local middle schoolers from Oak Creek and Steamboat. So seeing them become invested in themselves and personal accountability and each other, and then also the local climate work was really cool. So I think I have more hope after seeing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, is there much in the literature? I talked to a rancher yesterday. She said she saw 122 trees in her soil. They said just thinking about like what are the implications of that.
Yeah, none of the literature that I examined directly mentioned soil temperature. But with the effects of like we're standardizing for like within the methodology I've mentioned, like don't do it right after there's extreme rainfall. I was debating saying don't do it right after there's like an extreme heat wave, just thinking about how that's going to affect like evaporation versus soaking in of the moisture. But we ended up like not really being able to say like what is what is defined as abnormal, like in these summers where climate change is happening. So we ended up actually omitting that. But I think soil temperature would absolutely influence, I mean, how the water is moving through the soil, especially if you're talking about not just one day of extreme temperatures, if you're talking about an entire summer. So I think that absolutely would be an important extra layer, but it's not a layer that I included in my methodology. Okay.